Hi there, my name is Daisy Ryan, and today I had the privilege of reading one of my first comic books. I actually haven't read many comic books at all. Maybe I've read one before, but I don't really remember it. So this is probably one of my first comic books, and it is Robert E. Howard's Solomon Kane. It's a book of stories about Solomon Kane. It's an omnibus, so this is the front of it. In the back, and it's kind of just a book compilation of all of his adventures. So it was really cool to get to know the character. And I actually read the biography, so I'll jump just to show. Yeah. There you go. And a look inside the book. This is kind of a cool, just graphic depiction of him. One of his adventures, and then here's the other side, another cool depiction. So yeah, the artwork in these stories, really cool. The comic book designer did a great job on this. So I got to read, just to give myself some backstory, I read the biography of Solomon Kane, which is right here. And that was really cool because these stories are based on a historical character, so it's based on a real time period, but it's fictional stories. So they bring kind of the fantastical side into this character's storyline. So it's set in the time of the 1500s with the Puritans, and so I got to learn about that historical aspect of it. And then they also bring in real characters. So Sir Francis Drake is one of the characters in it, which was cool to see how those characters were interacting because one of them is not real, and that is Solomon Kane. So I read the biography on it, and yeah, it was cool to be able to just read some things about his growing up and how all the stories fit into the timeline of his life. So I read about how he was really going back and forth on all these different adventures. He felt the call to adventure, so he was going to places like Africa to go on these adventures. He was sailing. He was going on ships in, I believe, he was going back and forth from England, and it's a lot of stories of revenge. So that was kind of his biography that detailed the different places that he went to. He went to Africa a lot, and he went just here, there, and everywhere. And then, yeah, so he went on ships with a lot of different other characters who did similar things. But to get into the actual comic stories, the first one that I was able to read is called Skulls in the Stars. This was a very interesting, emotional roller coaster of a story. And just so you see kind of what the comic book artwork looks like, very detailed. It's all in black and white, and I honestly like the black and white. I think that color there's kind of a lot going on when it's the details and the color and the words, there's a lot going on. But the black and white makes it, I think, kind of easier to take it all in. So yeah, Skulls in the Stars. This is a story about how Solomon Kane goes into this swamp area where people are dying, and his character, just a little bit information on his character that I appreciate. I do appreciate that he's a heroic character. I personally, as a Christian, appreciate his faith aspect where he is doing things for the Lord. And so a lot of in this story, a lot of the reasons why he does things is to enact justice. So he's doing things as a Christian who's enacting justice on behalf of God. I do think that vengeance is the Lord's, but to him, he is serving the Lord through this justice that he enacts. So he goes into this place where there is a swamp and people are dying in it, and he finds this shack with a older man who claims that his cousin wandered off into this swamp and was never seen again. When he goes to the swamp, he encounters a very disturbing looking character. As you can see from these pictures, he's pretty hard to look at, but he comes out of the swamp and then this big battle takes place. And I think I want to just note, one of the things that I like about Solomon Kane's character is that he doesn't give up. He never gives up when other people would probably give up at this point. His gun fails. His sword goes straight through whatever this monstrous beast that comes out is. And many other people would have taken this as a sign to accept defeat. But not Solomon Kane. He goes and keeps fighting him physically. And this is a much bigger beast than him. As you can see from the bottom picture, that is a big opponent. But he doesn't give up, and he keeps fighting him. Eventually, he actually starts winning. And I think it's just kind of one of the themes, I think, of this story is not giving up and having the confidence to know that when you really put your mind to something, I think you can be greater than what is maybe realistic, what is seen as realistic. So I think that's one of the themes of this story, is that a lot of times when you're losing battle, it really is you against yourself. So man versus self, that's a common theme, but he overcame that by not letting those physical attributes that maybe he was like the underdog in this fight, he didn't let that keep him from fighting it anyway. So in the end, he overpowers this beast and he doesn't die, which is crazy. So he goes back and finds that old man in the shack from the beginning who said that his cousin was killed. And he says, that beast from that swamp is your cousin, and you were the one who killed him. So, as we know, Solomon Kane is a big proponent of justice. So he says that the only way to enact justice is to take this man who killed his cousin that is now this beast and sacrifice him. Give him back to his cousin. The only way is to let that beast kill him. Which I think is a pretty dark ending because it does end with him just walking away after tying this old man up to a tree. It's pretty gruesome and dark. I personally think that that's maybe a little far, but in his mind, justice is very black and white. He sees things as an eye for an eye, which I think a lot of people, especially in olden times, justice was very, if you kill someone, you die. That's kind of how they saw things, and he did truly believe he was doing the right thing. Solomon Kane sees his actions in enacting justice as him doing the right thing. So moving on, I got to also read another story for the most part, and this story is on page... It's called The Hills of the Dead. This was about vampires. It's a very detailed and descriptive artwork. They did very in-depth artwork on this one. But this was an interesting story that also really brought the fantastical and mystical aspect into his stories. In this one, it combined the historical and fantastical. So he was out in the jungles of Africa. He finds... Oh, before this, let me rewind. He is given a voodoo doll by a vampire. And it kind of goes against what he believes, but he does use it to save himself in this story. So as you can see, he saves a young girl from a lion in the beginning of the story. And I think that's part of what we all love so much about his character, is that he could have run away and left her for this lion, but instead, in his heroic character, and I think it also shows chivalry. That is one of just the aspects of his character that's so lovable. And so instead of leaving her, he saves this girl. Him and the girl end up at this cave to stay there for the night, but they are attacked by a group of vampires who want to kill him. But again, he doesn't leave the girl. He fights for himself. And when all odds are against him, this is another story that we see Solomon Kane not giving up just because he's outnumbered by multiple men who are also vampires. And he uses just the tools that he's been given, and he is able to defeat these vampires and stop them from hurting himself. and this girl. And so he's able to save both of them. And I think all in all, Solomon Kane is just an example of a man who shows chivalry. He's heroic, he enacts justice, he cares for others, and I think overall he is a great character. And I was just grateful to be able to learn more about him through this project. So these were the stories of Solomon Kane, and I loved being able to learn about him through these. Thank you so much.